Alright, so in this case I am going to do a video on dimensioning. For those of you that had IED, the process for dimensioning for architecture is different from what you have for dimensioning for shapes. So I have a PowerPoint that's available on Schoology. You can take a look at it. It's probably more confusing without me actually going through and mentioning some of the things on it, but this is one of the slides in that PowerPoint that I can point out. This is datum dimensioning. This is what you do in IED for a part. You start from an edge and you dimension to each position in the part from one edge. In residential dimensioning and commercial dimensioning, we do what's called chain dimensioning. We're going to start from an edge and then you just continue to dimension as you go across. Good news over here, if you make a mistake, you can just delete it and do it again. Bad news over here, if you make a mistake, you have to delete the whole chain and start from the original spot. The other slide in the PowerPoint that I would definitely make sure that you look at, and this might be one that's worth kind of freezing the video on when you start doing your dimensioning, is what you actually need to dimension in your house. So there's 3 lines of dimensioning for residential. There's 4 lines of dimensioning for commercial buildings. In the 3 lines of dimensioning, you have the first dimension, which is the overall dimension of the entire wall. Even if there's a bump out, it's the entire wall from one side all the way across to the other. Then you do exterior walls and partitions. So it's wall, and it goes to the next wall that's there, and then there's nothing else to mention until you get to your final wall again. And the last one is pretty much every single dimension that you would have, including the walls that you just dimensioned. So you start from the exterior edge, go to a window, go to the wall, go to the door, go to the window, go to the wall. These are center points on the windows and doors, not the edges of the doors. And that's how residential dimensioning is going to differ from commercial dimensioning. So I'm going to open Revit and give that a shot for some dimensioning. One of the things that we got to do when you're going to do a dimension is we are going to make a new sheet that looks, well, not a sheet, sorry, misspoke, a new floor plan that looks just like this floor plan. So you actually can create multiple floor plans just by right-clicking on ground, and I am going to duplicate with detailing. Anything I do on this sheet is going to be changed on the first sheet as well. So this is one of those things where you don't want to go through and start deleting your beds, because if you delete your beds, it's going to delete them on all the sheets that you put them on. I am going to rename this as ground floor dimensioned. Keep in mind you should do that in all caps. And I renamed it simply by right-clicking, going to rename, and I renamed it ground floor dimensioned. So instead of deleting the beds, I am going to hide them in view. Right-click, select hide in view, and this is a great time to use the category hide rather than the element hide, because any furniture that falls into the category of beds will be, well, it's not even just beds, it's any of the furniture that it sees as furniture will be hidden. So that's going to take most of my house away. And then I can go in here for the plumbing, hide that category as well. Lots of my plumbing features are going to disappear. Select a cabinet, hide that as well. By category, all my cabinets should disappear. And now I only have a few miscellaneous things to hide from this view. And as I hide those things, I think I have a house that looks pretty empty. If I go back to the ground floor that was originally there, because I hid those in view, they're still really in that other picture. You just can't see them. So if I were to delete them in the other picture, they would be gone from both of these. Exterior dimensions. Up here at the top of the browser is the dimensioning tool. It's called Align to Dimensioning. I'm going to click on that, and once I do that, I can now start to select things to dimension. There are some choices, and one of the choices that I want to do are faces of core. So make sure you select faces of core. This is one of the things where people say, I can't select what I'm trying to select, and it gets kind of confusing. This is also one where it works really well to zoom in really close on your first click. It's not going to, what I want to select is right where the bounded core meets my plywood sheathing. You actually don't dimension to the sheathing. Those are things outside the house. If you remember, the face of the core is what lines up with our floor underneath it. So you actually start with that outside core face. And for my first dimension, I'm just going all the way across my house. I'm not going to stop here. I need to go all the way across my house from one side all the way to the other and zooming way in close. This is the size of that side of my house. I'm just going to drop it way off the house. Second dimension were any walls that touch the exterior edge. So I go back in, select this face of core. I'm not going to dimension to the window. I'm not going to dimension to this door. I'm going to go to this wall. So in this case, it's the center point of the wall. Here's another one that I can get. Zooming in lets me select the center point. Zooming in lets me select the center point. And I'm just going to keep going. Center point of this wall, because we don't consider that an exterior wall, because they finished way over here. And there are no other exterior walls here, so I can go in, click. In this case, when I go up to the top, this should snap to a position. When it snaps, that's the proper spot to put it. And there's where it did it right there. I'll do that one more time. I'm going up really slow. And it will snap into a position, and then I can click, and all those dimensions just got dropped in. So this is chain dimensioning. The last line of dimensioning I do is zoom way in, select my face of core, and in this case I do the middle point of every opening and wall. If there is a dimension that is the same as the one directly above it, you would not dimension that again. So I'm not sure if I'm going to have any here, but I'll see in just one moment. There might be one right here. So in this case right here, where I'm going to go from this wall to this wall, it's exactly the same as the dimension that's already in place. So that's one that I do skip. You don't ever want to have the number repeated directly on top and below of it. So I'm going to go over, select that. I can't get the center without zooming in, so I had to zoom in. There's a couple more windows down here. Get that window, and face of my core. So now that I see the distance up here, I'm going to try to duplicate. This won't snap at first, so I'm going to try to duplicate that distance from my wall. That looks about appropriate. You could actually really get out a dimensioning tool and make that work. Now that I have that where it should be, these other ones I can drag down and snap them to place right above it. And that is my first wall dimensioned in this house, the exterior wall. I'm going to pause, do the other 4 walls so you can see what that looks like when it's done. Again, this might be something that you want to have up when you're actually trying to dimension your house. Dimensioning is actually one of the hardest things that we do in the course because it can get really confusing if you haven't done it a few times. Okay, I lied. I looked at what I had coming up and I figured I might talk you through the next wall as well. Common mistake is people will just dimension this little part down here, and you want to do like the entire east wall at one time. So if I'm going to dimension this side, I'm going to go up to the dimension tool, make sure faces of core is selected here, and in this case when I zoom in, I'm going to start up here and then get my entire face for the first dimension. So that's the entire face. It goes all the way from up here to all the way down there, not just the little box that's sticking off of the house. And that's where the mistake would be made, is sometimes people will just try to dimension that one. Second dimension, exterior walls. So I have that. And then there are no walls that touch this anywhere along here. The first exterior wall I get to is right here. And what that means is this wall touches the wall that I'm currently dimensioning. Here's another one where this wall touches the wall I'm currently dimensioning, and then I'll go all the way to my outside wall. So that's my second level of dimensioning. Third one, doors, openings, and walls. So I'm going to start up here, get my face of core. Here's a window, window, door. In this case, I am going to get that wall again. Window. Window. I will do this wall again because it's not a different dimension from the window to that. This one I don't need again, but there is no way for me to stop this dimensioning without one more click. And you always have to end on your exterior wall. So this is going to be an unusual case where the dimension right before it and the dimension are going to be the same. There is a few instances where that's allowed. I can't stop short of the exterior wall. It's kind of like one of the rules. So there you go. I'll pull my other dimension lines down to be close. There they are. One more. And I have 2 of my 4 walls dimensioned. Now I will pause and be back in just a minute. Third wall's done, and when I'm looking at it, going across the numbers, something I should have mentioned before, we got some numbers overlapping down here. It's really hard to see those. So a quick and easy way to do that, if I just click on them, get all these little blue dots, you can drag a dimension up with a leader line to pull it away from the others so that you can see all the measurements and make them all just that little bit clearer so that there's nothing confusing to a construction worker when they're going to go build them. I do have the entire house dimensioned on the outside. Occasionally you do have to come through and put in a few dimension lines in the inside of the house for a wall that maybe is not dimensioned. This takes a very careful inspection. Like for example, there's nothing telling a builder where this wall is, or where these doors are located, or where this wall is. And you just got to kind of look really carefully to see if everything has been dimensioned. A mistake would be someone might say, well, we don't know where this wall is. But you do, because it's in line with this one that's already been dimensioned. And it's also in line with this one that's already been dimensioned. So technically we do know where that wall is. Although to mark it probably wouldn't really be a mistake. I am not going to do it. So I'm just going to start from my outside edge like I did before. I'm going to get this door. These two are directly across from each other, so I don't need to dimension both of them. They will be able to figure that one out from what I just did. I'm going to get this door because that's not dimensioned from the outside, and then this little wall right here. And to the best of what I could see, I think in this direction, that is all I needed to dimension, because we know where this wall is, and we know where this wall. We got these 2 doors. See, so I did miss a couple. I need to show this door and this door. And now that I've done that, I just gotta get a convenient spot to drop it. It looks like that's going to be convenient right there. So I did the interior dimensions for anything that I would have missed from the outside. I'm going to clean up all those numbers for just a second. To do interior dimensions from the north to south, I'm actually going to do 2 lines because I think it would be too confusing because they'd be too far apart in the house. So I'm going to zoom way in, select that outside wall, and I'm getting tight on time. This wall needs a dimension. This one. This one. And that. And then there was just one more right here that I think I needed to do with the last little door. And then I might as well go all the way to the outside wall. And the trick here is going to be to find a nice spot to dump this one where it doesn't interfere with other things. Probably right out here is good. And then the other dimension line that I'm going to do is just to try to get this these couple of doors over here. Maybe I could have done it. It probably would have been best to do it in that line, I guess, now that I look at it. But you'll get the idea. I need to show where that door is right there. So now that I see that, I probably could have added that to the line that I had. And I think I'm going to delete it and do that one more time.